Welcome, everybody, to Broadcast Team Alpha, where we bring you cutting edge conversations while exploring the quantum possibilities. It's Wednesday, it's the Casual Wednesday show, and we're just going to have some fun today. But before we introduce our amazing guest, I'd like to invite you to connect with us. You can connect with us at broadcastteamalpha.com, and we asked Santa for 5,000 subscribers. So if you feel so inclined in this holiday season to subscribe and push us over the 5,000 mark, we would be so grateful. And we're so thankful for all of the super chats. You help us with the everyday expenses of keeping the show going, and you certainly inspire us to go on. So, Augie, will you tell us about our amazing guest?
Yes, this is going to be wonderful because we have Christian Muresanu. He is coming to us all the way from, I got to see if I can get that name, Cluj-Napoca, Romania.
Yes.
That's pretty good.
I bet I could not say that name again.
Yeah.
He has his own national TV show and put on programs where he investigates interesting scientific subjects. But he is also a medical marvel because he was very ill but found a way to heal himself through simple methods everybody can do. So here is something for everybody who is not perfectly healthy. I don't care what it is. If you have a serious illness or a sore toe, this is something that actually will work because it has science behind it, and that is what he is, a science reporter. And before we go on, I wanted to say a little more about Christian. Until the age of 42, Christian Muresanu had a life with numerous medical conditions and sufferings of all kinds. In most of these cases, classical medicine doesn't have any solutions, but only to alleviate the symptoms. That's the only thing they're good at. In February 2006, he started a complex phenomenon of biological transformation and successfully recirculated the biological resources necessary for healing. And in first 9 months, he cured all pain and inflammation in the body. And in less than 6 years, he cured the degenerative disc disease. Shortly after this, Christian observed, purely by chance, the most of the psychological functions being to be optimized. The focus of the mind and the speed of work began to get better. As time went on, he noticed a slowing down of the aging process and even temporary stopping aging. Now, that is something that should be interesting for all of us. And we invited him on our show because his story is so unique and so unusual and having profound implications on understanding human biology and psychology as well as the aging process. This time we wish to hear more from his experience, practical exercises that everybody can do, and life-changing events. So Christian, welcome to the show.
Welcome, Christian.
Thank you very much, and I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah.
Happy to have you.
Christian, you mentioned in several other occasions the reason that because of these changes in your body that you noticed from your exercises, the reason why you started studying biology. Could maybe elaborate on that?
Yes, during spring 2006, I couldn't understand what really happened when I started the biological transformation. I had no intention regarding biology, but a friend of mine invited me at his home and he said, Christian, you must see this, and I guarantee that your life will be changed. And I said to him, but it seems that already started to change. I hope I'll escape the ongoing pain. And he insisted to watch a 3 hours conference with Romanian subtitles. On that day, my entire knowledge about everything I knew about life, biology, and the natural environment collapsed in those 3 hours. The name of the professor who explains biology in an absolutely extraordinary way was Dr. Bruce Lipton. And I experienced a cultural and scientific shock. Everything I learned in high school about human cells, DNA, and mitochondria simply collapsed. The information was amazingly clear and was so condensed that I had to watch it again 10 times. Only after 10 times I was able to assimilate everything Professor Lipton was saying. And I was immediately after this incident, my interest in the new biology began, as he called it, the new biology, a biology in which we are no longer victims of the genome, but we are the masters, that we can create the reality we needed. And I began desperately searching for an email address from Professor Lipton to explain to him what was happening already in my body, and that it was in accordance with his theory. And after a year, in 2007, I have received a long answer plus a 72 minutes audio message containing the answers to my very burning questions. So we became very close friends, and I had the unique opportunity to meet him personally in Bucharest, where I also recorded an interview for my new show that had just started in the spring of 2010. In those few hours, I have experienced another life change, because at that time I was still using statins for lowering cholesterol. But Professor Lipton, observing the intensity which with my biological transformation progressed, he told me, don't take statins, you don't need them. The causes of cardiovascular disease are not found in cholesterol levels. And already 10 years have passed since I stopped that stupid statins treatment prescribed by the doctors in Romania. And here I am, after 10 years, well, healthy, and without cardiovascular problem. In my humble opinion, I highly recommend to invite Bruce Lipton to speak in your TV or radio shows, because his knowledge changed my view towards science, and without him, I would not have written the book, I would not have written science article, I would not have been interested in science, because all I wanted back then was to have no more pain. And this fact had just happened after the first 9 months of biological transformation, calculated from February to November 2006.
Wow. Yeah, thank you, Christian, for that interesting story. And we will be very glad to have Bruce Lipton come and talk to us on our show. That would be wonderful. I'm a great follower of him. And on another story, I heard you present the science part of your biological transformation, but can you tell us a little more about the healing effects that you had, and what kind of disease might be healed using these methods?
Yes. First, I must start from what I could verify based on my own experience and the testimonies of those who have healed. The most intense healing effects have occurred in the degenerated intervertebral discs. Even if it was the lumbar area in my case, it is logical and justified to estimate that the biological transformation could cure any other degenerate disc, regardless of the place occupied in the spine. By extension, it can be assumed with great accuracy that tissues, similar to those existing in the intervertebral disc, may also be healed, such as joints and cartilaginous ligaments. Already, a whole family of diseases might have a chance of healing if patients would put the theory into practice. And that would mean hundreds of millions of people suffering from back pain and joint pain might have a chance. Another healing effect, which I have observed in my personal experiences in the healing of chronic inflammation in some tissue area. I had a chronic rhinitis that worsened for 20 years in a row. Well, this is not a serious condition, but it weakens the body and exhausts it because breathing becomes very difficult on one or both nostrils. And this leads to a persistent fatigue. The healing of the rhinitis lasted 9 months from the start of biological transformation back in 2006. And the healing of the bilateral lumbar discopathy lasted 6 years, but the painful symptoms disappeared after the first few days.
Wow.
And the regeneration of the disc occurred silently, like a program running in background. So that I didn't even notice what was going on, but I have observed that I had no more pain. And the third category of conditions that can be alleviated or cured are certain migraines, headaches, and muscle cramps. In my case, the healing lasted 6 months after I first suffered 25 years of migraines.
Wow.
And I recently had the opportunity to study a special case of a 45 years old woman who told me how biological transformation helped her heal the carpian tunnel syndrome, a condition declared incurable except surgery. But the application of the surgery has consequences, and the patients will permanently feel some discomfort in the hands and fingers for the rest of their lives, because the technique consists in cutting ligaments that block the bending of the fingers, which produced extremely painful symptoms. So after surgery, they will no more have extreme pain, but only moderate pain on the rest of their lives. Her testimony is amazing, and it also in my Facebook page. After 2 years of suffering, she called me on the phone, and I explained her the principle of biological transformations again, but I also suggested her that temporarily she must leave the geographical environment, after which in less than 3 weeks she was completely healed despite the medical expertise of 2 teams of experts from Germany and the scheduling of a surgical intervention to which she no longer needed to apply. And I have her medical files which prove this statement.
Wow. Wow. And this is remarkable, Christian, because all of the conditions that you're talking about, in Western medicine, they say that they're really not curable, like the intervertebral discs. Once they're broken, if you will, once they're herniated, surgery is usually the treatment option. So I love what you're saying. And it might end, all of this might end the suffering of so many people. So how could someone who's having one or more of these illnesses apply the biological transformation? How do they do that?
This is the most complicated and difficult part, which currently does not allow the transition of the biological transformation in the area of self-healing or other forms of non-drug treatments. When I am explaining that the cure of degenerative diseases and chronic inflammation cannot be done without those growth factors, which we talk about sometimes earlier, people start to lose hope. They consider themselves incapable of practicing exercises, incapable of changing diet and lifestyle, at least for the duration necessary for healing. It is as if this change would cause a break in their being, as if they would not find themselves again, because they are identified by the food they consume. And it is not merely an act necessary to maintain vital functions. They are identified by their way of manifesting themselves through various forms of stress, which is counterproductive and destructive at the physiological and biological level. So changing bad habits and irrational behaviors becomes impossible. Why? Because they also create an identification of their being with the state of stress, causing them to take actions that bring them back more stress and suffering. Their mind is far too troubled to accept whatever theory, no matter how simple. What else to say about biological transformation, which requires an intellectual effort of understanding? So this makes biological transformations unapproachable in the current system of lifestyle and stress, whether we refer to patients or healthy people.
Right.
Yeah, I'm trying to follow this because it gets very deep. But you were sick and you healed yourself. Then you explained to other people how to practice and how to do it. You almost scientifically demonstrated much of this phenomena on yourself. And what prevents people, or what holds people back from practicing and achieving these good results?
Well, this is the problem. It prevents from getting results the simple habit of buying a pill, swallow it, and in a few minutes the pain disappears. And don't get me wrong, this is absolutely amazing, and all our lives have improved due to the scientific discoveries. Absolutely every person will face in life various pains, accidents, or be hurt in various ways. And for such situations, an occasional headache, a foot dislocation, or an infection, a common flu, deserved to be treated and cured by medication because it is fast, cheap, and very efficient method. From this point of view, the role of medicine and pharmacy is very well justified, including the sale of the pharmaceutical drugs. The only problem I often point out in my comments is that when medicine declares itself incapable to heal a number of diseases and conditions and define them as incurable, that is the situation in which the patient must seek for an alternative, but not just any alternative treatment, because without growth factors, the cure is not possible. And unfortunately, no alternative treatment can bring those growth factors towards the degenerated tissues except the biological transformation, at least in the present moment. There is no other way. And I would propose the following attitude. When the medicine declares a disease to be incurable, it means that no matter how many pills and treatments you will take, the disease will not heal. And often it can no longer be controlled at the level of symptoms. The patient must understand that on our present time, allopathic medicine cannot do more, but he or she may be able to generate a healing mechanism of his own. This is the moment when most of the people will say that it can't be done. We know that our biological body is less resistant to environmental conditions. It is vulnerable to stress and is easily destroyed but very difficult to repair. Despite this disadvantage, my life experience has shown how the physiological and biological system can be improved if we stop the losses of those growth factors, which we know helps us a lot in regeneration. And I have described the method, I have explained it to others. Some have achieved results, but most people will not accept to make any change in their lifestyle. So it is too difficult for them to break away from the things and habits that eventually brought their disease.
So for those patients, there's no hope, or?
There is hope. And the fact we are doing right now this interview already give hope to everybody, because education is the only way to bring this information to the public. Repeating and repeating these things will eventually lead towards a change in the perception. First step is to change the mass perception and make the idea of biological transformation to circulate in the thoughts of as many people as possible. And we can do this by writing books, writing science papers, demonstrating the phenomenon in the lab, and most importantly, raising the awareness of the public during TV and radio shows. And the second step would be the practical one, obviously. Once the idea will be accepted, the practice is a natural following outcome. Stimulating the growth factor circulation in the blood would mean to educate some muscular contractions and implementing the 5 attitudes described in volume 1. It can be done by everybody. Maybe few months up to 1 year if they lack any personal will of change. Maximum 1 year. But I remember Bruce Lipton talking about how to control our lives by moving from the back seat of our car towards the front seat and take the wheel in our hands and drive the car, which is our body, instead of leaving it on automated pilot. So for people who lack this kind of personal commitment, I would recommend to watch the Bruce Lipton DVDs, The New Biology and Where Matter and Mind Meet. In my case, self-determination, the ability and willingness to do something in learning biology came from watching those DVDs a dozen times. I am an engineer, not a biologist, but I could learn biology at the level of what I really need in my life. The third step will be going into an advanced practice. This practice is also part of an education. And after we educated our conscious mind, we must educate the body to do the actions we want.
Yeah, and it gets deeper and deeper here, and I love what I am hearing. So, okay, let's recap a little bit. First, we need to accept the responsibility for ourselves. The idea of the alternate self-healing mechanism, we got to accept that too. Then we start to apply the 5 attitudes from volume 1 all the way up to 5, and then we should go further on into practice and start the exercise which will help men and women to stimulate growth factor circulations into the bloodstream. Is that what these exercises are?
Yes, and these exercises are known as pelvic floor muscle contractions exercises, the so-called Kegel exercises. These exercises are having good scientific support and have been proven useful in delaying premature loss of seminal fluids on men and strengthen the vaginal muscles on women. But imagine, what if we could do more than simply delay that? What if we could delay the fluid loss not by 5 minutes or 10 minutes, but more, maybe hours, because science have already proven the effectiveness up to 10 minutes, but it is up to us to achieve more. So repeating and repeating is the mother of all teachings. Let me give you the good news. Already, by delaying the premature ejaculation with 10 minutes, has the effect of sending in the blood of a very small amount of growth factors, because during those 10 minutes, the prostate gland of the man and the endometrial tissue in the woman are both contracting and no fluid leakage occurs. So that means in those 10 minutes, due to muscle contractions, the blood receives small amounts of growth factors. So let's put this also into the logic by asking the question, why people doing exercising are feeling better than those which are sedentary? Because in a certain degree, movement is doing good for us all. And this is because muscle education stimulates healing. But if you have a broken arm and after surgery you wish to get back towards its original state, what will you do? It is called kinetotherapy or medical physical therapy. You contract the precise muscles in order to get the function back and heal the broken arm. This is similar in doing the pelvic floor muscle exercises, because those muscles which are needed during biological transformation are weak and they need to be stimulated, and in turn they will further stimulate the smooth muscles contractions of the entire prostate gland and the endometrium, which cannot be otherwise directly controlled. So today we delayed 10 minutes the fluid loss. Tomorrow maybe 11 minutes, then 12, 13. Maybe some people driven by curiosity will have success after a few dozens of intimate relationships when they'll continue to observe and apply the muscle contractions.
Yeah, I can see that. That makes sense, actually. And Christian, if, let's say, after doing these exercises, men and women will continue still to have to lose fluids. Is that a sign that the process are failing, or is it that way?
It is natural to happen. And here is another good news. As more and more the fluid loss are delayed, the more and more growth factors are released into the blood during intimate contacts. The more and more growth factors are released into the blood, the more powerful the body becomes. More power of control, more mind power, more will, confidence, and even more regeneration power. All these things are increasing as fluid losses are consciously decreasing. So there is no failure in doing these exercises and doing growing attention during intimate acts. It is a win-win situation. Nobody is losing. The only way in losing is doing nothing. So never lose hope and start doing exercises. Eventually some people will even get better than me and have amazing results even better than mine, just because they now know how to do it. And this is the power of information. And I recommend the audience to listen our talks several times after broadcasting from the YouTube archive.
So, Christian, what should a woman or a man do who has undergone prostate surgical or a hysterectomy surgery?
The 5 attitudes may be applied in this case, and since we have not yet unlocked all the mysteries of our biological body, it is possible that after such intervention, the body may be stimulated to continue producing growth factors while performing intensively the 5 attitudes. And please use volume 1 for a complete understanding in order to save time in our discussion now.
Right.
Christian, what do you think from an epigenetic point of view? What happened in your body at the point when the healing process started? Epigenetics is very popular reading now.
Yes, it is true. Yes. When we talk about epigenetics, this means exercising an influence other than implicit genetics. This means that environmental factors, which include the ex extracellular which include the extracellular environment as well as the extracorporeal environment, influence us. At that time, in 2005, I was in great suffering. And Bruce Lipton's conference appeared in the fall of that year, in autumn. But its information and translation did not arrive in Romania earlier than the fall of 2006. So I had to rely on demonstrable hypotheses, namely that if I influenced the internal, the intracorporeal environment, which means the extracellular environment, using the physiological modification proposed by the yogic esoteric literature, then it means that I could influence my destiny of remaining ill without any chance of healing. And I influenced it, and so I healed myself. In conclusion, the epigenetic factor that I used then, without knowing anything about epigenetic science, was the modification of a physiological mechanism that was unfavorable to my health, so that after this change it became favorable to my health. But this was not the only epigenetic factors that I introduced into my biological system. Another quite important was the readjustment of the diet, because my case is more special in the sense that during the age of 7 to 25 years old, I used an exaggerated wrong diet, which was not good to my body, already weakened by diseases, stress, and overwork. I'm not saying that a diet containing animal protein is bad, but when it becomes a permanent part of every day, even several times a day, then it is logical to say that it cannot lead to a long-lasting healthy state. Another epigenetic element that I have introduced was the change of the respiratory rhythm, which in my case had become accelerated and chaotic due to stress, overwork, weak body, and others. Basically, at that time, I could only act by epigenetic factors if I wanted to have a chance of recovery.
Right. That's interesting that you're using the breathing. What exactly did you change in your breathing technique? Can you elaborate about that?
It all started with an observation. During all my past failed experiments on controlling the physiology, I have observed that if I am lowering the breath pace, I am having better control. But if orgasm occurs, the mind instantly forget to lower the pace, and the pace is rising again and the control is lowering again. There was no easy way to learn this and transform it into a habit. Every time when orgasms occur, the pace accelerates and the control is lowering. However, eventually, hundreds or maybe thousands of repetitions of remembering thousands of times the accelerated pace have led to a habit. It took me about 6 months to do it because there is no book written for me. So I wish the viewers and our listeners to not losing hope. and feel discouraged when I'm saying numbers like hundreds of trials or thousands of failed experiments, because now they have the book, the manual, they have me as a living example, and I can answer the questions. And this is an amazing opportunity which shortens the time of practice and accelerates the results. So the main objective in breathing exercises is to modify the normal rhythm with a lower one, and that should become permanent. How to do it is written exactly at page 38, chapter 364, Attitude for Pacing Breath, from volume 1, Biological Transformations Controlled by the Mind.
That gets very interesting, because yogis are also very much into the breathing because of health, so that falls right into place. And how did Bruce Lipton explain that to you as a scientist?
Yes, it was very important for me, the meeting with Bruce Lipton. And even if in 2006 I already started the biological transformation, his knowledge about epigenetics was so fascinating that you simply cannot go away and stay unaffected. His conference is a life-changing event, and I watched it about a dozen times. Obviously, I started to correlate the epigenetics with what happened to me earlier that year. And then I wrote about a dozen questions, and he emailed me actually a 72 minutes audio conference just for me. Let me quote for you from what he told me in that recording. So I am now using his original quote. Neuroscientists have told us that the primary neural operation of the brain is not controlled by the conscious mind. It is controlled by the subconscious mind. The subconscious is 1,000 times more powerful than conscious mind. It seems it is the subconscious mind that runs the entire life show. Neuroscientists have now recognized that the subconscious mind, the one with the programs, runs our life 95% of the time. Most neuroscientists tell us that we really run our life from the subconscious mind. And here is the problem. The primary programs in the subconscious mind are downloaded by observing parents, brothers, and sisters of family, our community, our nation. And this is where we get the programs from, in the subconscious mind. The conscious mind is what you want out of life, while the subconscious mind has programs about what other people tell us about life, tell us what we can do and tell us what we cannot do. The subconscious mind is mainly filled with limitations, disempowering beliefs that say you are ill, you are vulnerable, or you are weak. These are the beliefs that people tell us, and these are real because the subconscious mind runs the show 95% of the time. And then the beliefs we got from other people primarily run our life show. And what we think, we are running our lives with our own personal desires, the conscious mind. It turns out that this mind only works 5% of the time. So many people speak about positive thinking, but with what? The 5% of the conscious mind, while the other 95% never heard about positive thinking.
Right, right. So, Christian, did you ever question yourself about your disease? Like, was there a reason, or did you think about it at the energetic level? I mean, we know now that every disease appears first on the energetic level. So do you think there could have been something you could have done differently in order that the disease didn't come into physical manifestation? according to epigenetics and neuroscience, our cells don't have to have a certain behavior prior to the environmental information.
To all questions, the answer is yes. But here is the catch. Knowing the cause of a problem does not eliminate the problem. It is not as difficult finding the cause, but rather solving the problem. The energetic level within our body is related on how much the body can sustain on optimal level of functions. The first signs which send you a conscious information is a feeling of being weak, sleepy, fatigued. You feel cold in your hands or fingers. You have less focus of the mind. And when you have these signs, there is still nothing wrong in the body. And you have no pain. So obviously something is happening at a different level, because we know that the body produces his own energy. And when that energy decreases, problems might occur later. We might try to change something when these signs appear and mostly became even chronic. But there is no manual, no book, and no knowledge yet to educate us in advance. And even if eventually will be available such an education, people are not embracing another lifestyle except for what they really appreciate on the present moment, until pain symptoms or intense sensations perturb their adorable lifestyle. But by then it may be already too late to change due to the lack of the will and energy loss. So it is logic, when you have energy loss, you also have lower will and become weak. So yes, it would be nice to act before the disease come to the physical level, but I didn't do that. Other people never do that, and there is no education about this. Science already tell us a lot of things, like you mentioned earlier about the cells. However, cell behavior is very complex, and it exists in the biological software, subconsciously transmitted over the millions of years. But if we wish to change something or add something, then we must work and dedicate ourselves to achieve that goal. It doesn't come up just by talking about. Talking is not enough. Practice is required.
Yeah, that is always the wild card. We have to practice. We have to do our own part in order to be successful. It is not just handed to us. So if you have to squeeze your whole experience into a message for the people, especially in pain, and also make it in plain language, that would lead them to the information leading to transformation like you had, what would the message be?
First, you must do the information part. Learn much as you can about the origins of your own pain. Read the science literature and make notes about everything that lead you into this. Because knowledge is power, and as Bruce Lipton said, without knowledge there is no power. Then you must go forward into transformation part, and that means practice. Educate your body to breathe correctly. Educate your body to lower the fluid losses that I'm talking about in my book. Educate your diet, educate your lifestyle, and your intimacy. Create new habits out of these education lessons. You'll already see results, and that is a fact. And when you'll see the results, you'll already have your willpower back, your mind focus back. Your self-confidence is back, so you can go into advanced level of the practice, and that looks like a good plan. But please do not avoid the medical advices, and if you don't fully agree with them, please seek secondary opinions. Do not avoid scientific discoveries. Read the papers on PubMed database. Search with Google words for the symptoms and cures. Use everything in order to help you cure the disease. Do not start from the incurable statement and do assume, what if I can do this? Can I do this? Yes, you can do this.
Yeah, I know, and I totally agree with you. When you go to the doctor, you get the first opinion. You should have a second opinion, third opinion, fourth opinion. And one of those opinions really should be your book that explain the process.
Yes.
If you read, you're hearing it now, but reading it give you more information. It goes into a different part of the brain to become memory. And this is why, for those that have a need for anything in health, it seems like this process will work for most things out there.
Christian, I think this is so important right now because people are rebelling, against Western medicine. They've had enough. They've seen their family and their friends or their elderly family, go down that long, winding corridor of medicine and not necessarily come out with good results. So a lot of younger people, people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s are saying, forget it. I don't want to go to the doctor anymore. And maybe, I do know I have a disease, but every time I go to the doctor, they find something else wrong. But like what you said before, they're losing their will. So instead of being motivated to use like a method like yours, they're just saying, okay, I'm just not going to do anything until I die. So I think it's so important, for what you're doing. It's so, so important right now.
Yes, and I met this kind of attitude here in Romania in my very few conferences I started to participate, to organize, that people are feeling so hopeless when I said, you have your own resources.
Right.
You only need to recirculate them into the blood, and they go everywhere in all tissues and make repairs. But
Right.
they prefer something superficially, to go to an all kind of other seminars and conferences where the speakers promise them something miraculous, or they brought a device, they opened a button, they power the device and said, oh, this is how I am sending you now a lot of waves you, and you will get well. So everybody stay in the chairs and wait for the miracle waves to do the healing for them.
Right.
Instead of taking control of their lives. This is what the Bruce Lipton message is about, taking control of your own life, not expect a miracle from outside.
Yes, and actually what Bruce Lipton said is we take control of our physical life, but we also create those waves you just mentioned. We create those because we control those waves.
Yes, instead of waiting for someone else to produce those kind of waves and energies by turning on whatever miracle device, they already have the potential to produce the healing inside.
Right. Right. I love that. I love it.
Yeah.
And there's a certain percentage of the population who might be in that audience and actually receive the placebo effect and actually heal themselves because they were told, okay, we're going to send you the healing waves. They may want healing so much that they do heal themselves, but that's a very small percentage. It's
Yeah.
really up to us. And I think one of the biggest barriers in America is that we forget who we are because, like what you said before, we're identified by our work. We're identified by this insane schedule that leaves no room for self reflection or for self
Mhm.
healing. And we forget who we are and just get caught up in that and then identify ourselves by the disease. So I love everything that you're saying here. I love it.
Yeah, and then on top of that, some people identify themselves by saying, "Oh, I am a cancer patient. I have leukemia." So they identify themselves with the disease, and that is probably the worst thing they can do.
Well, I think it's
Yeah,
good not to own it, right? Not to say
Yeah.
my diabetes, my cancer. I think it's good, to separate yourself from it and know that you don't have to keep it. Absolutely. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, really good. So, Christian, how can people find your book?
my
Your
book
your
is
books, yes.
freely distributed on my academia and ResearchGate accounts, and it's a PDF file free to download, and it contains 100 pages of explanations, and also there are some other interviews published on a very famous American blog about the scientific explanation of Kundalini energy. And
Mm.
I was invited there to write some papers, and they also present methods and some new information which had not been presented here. And of course, my scientific papers, which already uh, two of them appeared in top medical journals,
Wow.
and the third one is currently under peer review and will be available next year in uh, some other very high ranking impact points journal. Uh, and this is almost a serious science, what I am
Mm.
talking about.
Mhm.
And I, I have a great team of experts, professor from uh, biology department in Salem University on West Virginia, um,
Oh.
and professor from an research institute in Texas. It's called the Galley Institute, and he is a Russian professor. His name is Aliyev, and when we met, it created a bond between us, and we are now so intense collaborate each other. And the professor from Salem University, his name is Siva Somasundaram, and he is from India, and worked initially on Houston Victoria University, and then he moved toward north, uh, and here we plan at the new university to edit volume 2 of the biological transformations
Mhm.
early in 2020, next year. Um, and it will present the whole science, the complete science of biological transformation, and my entire medical history. I already disclosed one of the photos which will appear on that book. I sent it to Age earlier yesterday, and what you see there was my real life.
Wow.
You can't imagine how many pains I have, hundreds of pains and hundreds of days of suffering in my first 42 years of life. So
Wow.
that picture is amazing, yes, because it shows how great was my sufferings, and it almost became like the usual way. I said, okay, so maybe this is life, because I never knew other kind of life, only after biological transformation.
Right.
So people having health, they don't know what is to be sick, and they don't believe the sick people.
That's true.
Yeah.
And they laugh at other people talking about how to heal, and oh, we are very strong, nothing can beat us. But until one day,
It can happen to everybody.
yes.
Yeah. And now the place where people can get the book, is there a website that you can give us for that?
Yes, and we can include in the YouTube file comments
Yes.
the correct URL,
Yeah.
web
do that.
address.
Yeah.
Perfect. We'll do that.
Yeah.
Wow, Christian, thank you so much. I would love to have another conversation with you and maybe go a little bit deeper after I read your book.
Yes.
Okay.
I am very happy to be present, and I am very happy to continue the collaboration with Age. You proposed me already two more interviews in other future occasions, and I am very happy to participate, and including the new quantum healing platform, which is something unique in the world, or what you were doing now, and I appreciate a lot to be here. In Romania, I don't have this kind of recognition, and I only appeared two times on radio, and obviously I spoke in my TV shows about this experience, but not at this level, not as the guest. I was the moderator, and other person maybe 1 or 2 minutes appreciated the biological transformation, and then we go further on what he wanted to talk about. And so here is the real opportunity.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for being with us. And we will send you a link as soon as we have it for you.
Yes. Okay. And looking forward to meet you again for new presentations.
Oh, yeah. We will talk again soon.
Yep.
Okay.
I just want to thank all our broadcast team Alpha listeners. Thank you for being here. Thank you for telling your friends about us. And Christian, again, thank you so much. Augie, thank you. Our producer Katie, thank you. We'll see you next Wednesday.
Thank you now, and have a good evening.